technology, the future, design, humanity, companies, and more. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Keenan, and with me
Man,
today,
the other host, Alan Smith, and yeah, I have to point out too that we drink coffee and yell when we get excited about AI ideas. This is a big part of the podcast. If you've
big
never
part.
been here before, so strap yourself in for some yelling at some point in time, or egregious excitement.
And I'm drinking today. I'm drinking this espresso, and I have a backup pod, just in case things get a little bit iffy and
Okay,
perturbed.
feel free to hit that when required. Today, I'm drinking Signet coffee from West End, Toronto. And it's treating me right as always. Shout out to the team there, Damien.
Yeah, shout out to Damien. And we're based in Toronto, so we're live on YouTube, but we exist in the physical world. And if you're in Toronto, good on you. Let's start with some link sharing questions. Questions from me about our links for Al.
Okay.
All right.
I love this user interaction or listener interaction.
So last time we discussed how to build a company, we did like a deep dive on this. If you want to go into it, the
That was
link
fun,
sharing.
right? I feel like I learned
Absolutely.
so much. And, like, afterwards, I had 5 conversations with people and felt like way more developed in my thinking. Like, we came in pretty raw, knowing that this was a thing and nobody really knows what it is. And I feel like we developed our thinking a lot on that, which is a big part of the point of this podcast, is to develop thinking on the ideas that are on the forefront right now.
Totally. And I felt, at my own company, like we are, no company's an AI company right now. And just like seeing these areas, we're like, oh, yeah, that doesn't, you know, we don't have the context for that, or we are doing this in a weird way. So check out that last podcast if you're interested in the future of AI companies. So I think I haven't sorted these properly, really, but these like are a set of different topics. So this one is about agentic video creation. There's this
Mm,
product called Hyperframes. There's another one called Remotion that we can talk a little bit about. And there is this trend of basically using the existing DOM, which is the HTML renderer in the browser, to create videos. And so I think this is so fascinating. Like we talked about how the CLI is this new enabler of agents. This thing from the 70s is now the primary way that the most powerful way for agents to interact. For video creation, now the coolest motion graphics can all be composited through the web. And like one of the big enablers of this is that the web can display any kind of media. So what
mm,
you're seeing in this video is generated video from this API, generated music from that API, like 3D rendered stuff because now we have this capability in the browser, typography because now we have fonts in the browser. And like if I told you uh, 10, 15 years ago that the browser was going to be like the highest end motion graphic tool, you would have laughed at me. And actually, like I even think like last year, if I told you like the browser is the future of like where the coolest apps are going to be built, you wouldn't believe me. But like in the same way, you wouldn't believe me that the CLI is the future of agentic interaction. So I think in some ways we're kind of going back to the tried and true. What do you think about this?
You're right. I would have said, shut the front door, Patrick. There's no way this is where the future is going. It's going away from there, not towards there. And yet here we are, right? Like, what a shocker. It blows me away. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Also, the branding of Hyperframes, this name, I don't know. It's like I have this tote bag, and on the side it says, "I like it. What is it?" And I feel like that's how I feel about this product already. Like, I like it. What is it? It sounds really good to me. Um, this this concept I love because, okay, so there's a few things about it, right? One, it's every single channel we think of, like every medium. is migrating to AI, right? Like that's the trend. For a while, this stuff was like video was kind of protected, and you could render images, but they weren't great. And then you could only render photorealistic, and then we added all the styles, and it's just like it just keeps expanding outwards. Like make a spider chart, and it is wherever's low right now will be higher later, right? And it's nice to see this here. I think in generative contexts where you want an agent to do work, this is so powerful, right?
Exactly.
Like if you have a bunch of humans who are already putting on camera, I don't know what this does for you. But if you don't have a bunch of humans and you don't have cameras and you just have a bunch of agents, to be able to allow them to speak through the language of video, essentially, and to hook that up for them, it's freaking awesome, man. And like, I think about how I would be using this right away. It would absolutely be around marketing, because video is just so engaging, and everything's video. Every stream is slowly turning into TikTok. Like LinkedIn is just adding more videos, and reels in Instagram, and in Pinterest. The other day I saw that they have not only loads of video ads everywhere, but now they have clips and they have carousels, and I'm like, does this make sense here? I don't know, right? So anyway, I love this. It was time for it. The specific features of this product look great. Yeah, let's go. We're there.
So I'll throw in another one here, which is related. So this is Remotion. So the last one, Hyperframes, is done by HeyGen, I believe, and they do avatars. So for them, business-wise, it kind of makes sense to be like, hey, we know that you want to use these avatars, but you need to use them in a video. Why don't we just like help automate the video process so you can buy the avatars off us, sorry. So that's what HeyGen does. Remotion is, I don't know what the company actually does. They might actually be an open source project. But what they're showing here is these are the kind of two tools, Remotion or Hyperframe. And what they're showing here is actually using this new feature of the browser called HTML in Canvas. And that allows you to essentially turn HTML into Unity. Like, well, why is this important? We've seen a bunch of 3D games before. Well, the difference is that you can still interact with all the text and the input fields and just like all the stuff that you would expect from a website, but you do it through this projection of this 3D map thing. Now,
so is it, it's not a video, it's like a 3D website? Like, I don't get it. What is it?
So this is a video capture of a 3D website.
Yeah, that I got, because it's a post in X here, and we know that X is only going to hold that. But yeah, right. So,
and I think they kind of like wanted it. They in the same way Hyperframes is made for making videos. This is what Remotion is for as well. Is basically you prompt your agent like, I want a demo video. Here's my product shots. Here's a narrative from me. Make it generate X, Y, and Z images as well. So all of these things are command line prompted video creation tools. What I'm saying here is like, this is the build, which is now you can kind of take anything that's a canvas, an HTML browser element, and you can extrude it in 3D. You can add on like shaders. You can give it crazy effects in the same way you would in After Effects in real time. And so they're doing it for video. But I think with both of these things, you do start to wonder, like, what is the future of UI? So like if we're kind of like using the browser to generate motion graphics that we would traditionally think as kind of static linear media, it's very clear that will also be happening in real time. So like, will we start to expect our UI, our kind of interactions with the computer, to be more like TikTok that you were talking about, to be more like Instagram? Like, will these videos, these short form videos that we see, actually be kind of like interactive in some way? Will it be like closer to a video game in the kind of like fidelity, 3D transitions, like type movement? I don't know, like, and the other side of this is like, it's all usable. Like you can type in here. Like it's both utility and kind of like entertainment motion graphics value.
Yeah, it's like, high stimulation, high dopamine, high brand voice can be injected into this, right? Like there's so much you can do with it. The thing that jumps out at me the most is, as much as it is useful for one person to, like, for me to have this and to be like, hey, make my demo video, I feel like it's more useful in the context of like volume, where an AI is just going to be able to say, you know, make every product page we have super awesome and load in this huge catalog of products. Or, you know, I want to make a wrapper for somebody else's products. Go read them all. Just tell great stories about them. Make landing pages for them all. You know, add all of these URLs, then create accounts for each one of these things. Like that kind of thing where like an agent can like just do a ton of this stuff. That feels like where it's going to be the most awesome. Dude, we're yelling already. We're yelling already, Pat.
Let's go. Let's fill up this other pod. Yes, you're right. I'm thinking like, okay, this is going to be cool for an individual using a computer, and what a cool interface. But you're right. The actual outcome is like a million agents using this thing to create these graphics that feel like they were custom crafted by someone for you.
Yeah.
It's the batching. It's like the scale to that. Yeah, that's interesting.
And so this is actually like a cool concept. I want to bring this up. So this is cool. Okay, man. I'm gonna do small voice, big head, lean in and talk about like so anyway, the idea that I like about this is that this is work that nobody was doing. So it's not like we're putting some, you know, poor video developer, motion graphics bro out of business.
Mhm.
That's not happening. It was never economical for us to apply this type of quality and finish to something by human hand. It was too expensive, right?
Yeah.
And now it's like we're basically getting luxury goods for super cheap inside of a computer, right? Like that's crazy, man, that we get this now. And so I'm working on this thesis that, and I'm going to keep saying it all the time until everyone makes fun of me. The most lift we're going to see in AI is not in replacing jobs people are already doing. It's in the jobs that aren't being done today. It's in the extra value that could be added that was not previously accessible due to the cost of human reasoning and labor.
100%. Yeah, and this is an example. Like, do you remember the Lonely Sandwich videos?
Yes, I remember Lonely Sandwich. Those were so good, dude. We could make an agency before the end of the podcast that would just churn out Lonely Sandwich videos at this point. Like it's not, and this is weird for me because it's like this was such a craft. These guys are so good, and they were charging like, I don't know, $100,000 for a launch video or something back in the day. I don't know what they were doing or if they're still around.
I don't know. Oh yeah.
Part of it is that guy's face, like Adam,
right?
You know, just like his face and being so deadpan. It's like that's part of the charm, I think. But for a while, their advantage was they were bringing a level of fit and finish to the launch video that no one else was bringing. Like that was their edge. Like that was their unique selling proposition, right?
Totally. Yeah, I think it was the way that they launched stuff. It was totally his like delivery. And it was that nobody else was kind of doing it in that way. Like I feel like it was at a time where you were like, what does this app do? Or like, oh wow, technology can do like a lot of things I didn't know about. And so there was like a need to deliver like, what does this do that's like new and unexpected in a way that's kind of consumable and like comedic. And I feel like we're at that point with a lot of this. I think we're pre that point. Like I just think a lot of this stuff coming online is not accessible to most people. So we don't really have the Lonely Sandwich moment for some products. But we're almost there. So maybe it's time for like something to like do that. All right. Speaking of expensive things to do that AI can help you do, design. I don't know if we haven't talked about this, but have you tried Claude Design?
I'm embarrassed to say I've not tried quad design. I have heard mixed reviews everywhere from it's a nightmare and a useless piece of trash to every designer. Nice knowing you, RIP. We'll put a big cemetery with a handsome, very handsome signage to get you around it. What's your take?
My
good?
confession is I haven't tried it either. The things I've heard about it is it takes a lot of tokens. Fine, whatever. I think the interesting thing from a design tool perspective, which I guess I'm like a bit of a tool nerd, like we shape our tools, then our tools shape us, is this notion of parametric design, which is that as a designer, your job is to define parameters, which then can be tweaked. So like anything you look at, like whether it's the type size, the color, or the typography, the whatever, the spacing, these are all things that as you prompt, you say like, make me a cool like page about hiking. It's going to default a bunch of those things. And it's just going to kind of be like, well, I think the padding should be 20 pixels. Then you enter this walkie-talkie problem, which shout out to the Framer guys. Kuhn from Framer was talking about this, which is the walkie-talkie problem. And this is the problem that anybody who wants to tweak something, but particularly designers, encounter when you are trying to design with code, which is your LLM is in a room and you can see your LLM can't see you. And you're like,
okay,
move a little bit to the left. Nope, to the right. Nope, go forward. No, you see that thing in front of you? Yeah, like pick that up. And so you're essentially like trying to guide this incredibly intelligent and powerful tool through a walkie-talkie. That's a modern design problem. And so what parametric design offers is like, okay, cool. Now you can tweak a little bit, like we've added like a little screen to your walkie-talkie. I don't think we're there yet. I still find myself going to Figma when I want some precision. But I do want to think that like even Figma is not high fidelity enough. Like I want to believe that like, one thing I've been doing, I was working on a workshop and I was thinking like we could all be vibe coding in Figma. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a paper exercise here. And so like the cool thing about
who's making this paper? Can you send me the GitHub repo? What is paper?
No, sorry. I should clarify in the age where all of our common objects have been turned into products. Yes, printing paper from a printer.
This stuff.
That stuff.
Okay.
So like in peak design thinking times, I think the critique is that you go to a workshop and you throw a bunch of stickies on the board and you do these like journey maps and you do the flow diagrams and then you leave and then the engineers build what they were going to build anyway. Like I think that's the max peak design thinking, because you feel like, oh yeah, we feel really good about this thing, and then there's no way to connect that to actually what you implement.
But let's be fair. You got cool photos of hip people on a whiteboard with Post-it notes, and your HR team loves it because your company culture looks dope because everyone wants to do sticky note exercises. So let's just admit that there's benefits. Serious business benefit here.
And
unintended benefits
is like perhaps we discarded that too soon. And so like I do get a little bit cringe when I start to like throw stickies on the board. But now if you were to reframe your stickies as actually a prompt, and to know that like that I am putting a sticky here is going to output a different product, like perhaps paper is the ultimate interface. Like I go to Figma to tweak things, but perhaps there's a way through paper, through like physical space, through like just bigger canvases, that you could actually have your live product definition on a giant wall and like actively change what's on that wall to change your product. That's just kind of blue sky thinking. But like, yeah, it just changed how I thought about the paper, because now I know the paper is a prompt.
I feel like you lost me, man. What do you mean the paper is a prompt? You gotta like on paper's ultimate interface. Like, dude, I want to buy in. Like I want to, but I'd be lying if I said I got it yet. So you got to get in there again.
So here's the deal. At the end of the workshop, so you record the workshop, you transcribe
Yes.
everything that everybody's talking about.
Which is a
Um,
huge benefit of AI. Remember, stuff used to get lost. Like that doesn't happen anymore. So first,
right.
thanks to the AI note takers, you guys are saving us.
Yeah. And you can just use your phone for voice notes. So you have a transcription. AI understands context and it understands who's speaking. So there's a lot of value in just recording. Now, there's a scene. Imagine a scene. Everybody's in a conference room. Everybody's huddled over their computer, and they're typing to an LLM to describe via a walkie-talkie what they want to produce, right? Now imagine another scene where everybody's huddled around a wall or a table, and they're pointing at a diagram, and they're drawing out like little compositions, or like this thing could happen there. And there's a live camera feed above or in front of the wall that is just like taking that thing and putting it into the machine. And maybe that doesn't work because you have to erase stuff, or like I'm sure there's all kinds of like little edge cases there. But I guess my question is, like, is typing into a console in a kind of like talk, wait 10 minutes, see way a better form of work, like a better choreography for people working through a problem than paper? The problem with paper historically, or whiteboards, has been it doesn't translate to implementation. You have to like do another step of synthesis, writing it down, making project plans, PRDs to implement it. But what if your whiteboard could just be read by the machine and you could see the output of what you guys had just defined? That's the thought.
And it can, they know how to read handwriting and recognize objects and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I think so. When I think about why would I do one over the other, so I'm planning an offsite too, right? And my problem is, okay, I've got some people together, I've got a team, together for a couple of days. We're going to do some social stuff because that you definitely can't do on a command line interface yet, as far as I know. And I want to start sketching out a couple. There's a couple of outcomes that we're looking for. When I think about those outcomes, I'm like, how high up can we go, or do we need to go before we're doing work that is at the level of somebody else in the org chart? And somebody else, I'm meaning like the LLMs, right? And so I'm thinking like, I need to get people focused on this stuff that's like not the LLM's job to do. And depending on how high up you go, you can just start outsourcing your thinking, which is kind of like suspect. I think augmenting is good, but outsourcing probably not great. Change my mind on that later, but for now, that's how I feel about it. And so, in terms of the ultimate interface of paper, I think if you don't have something that you're all looking at, it's a tough thing for everybody to hold everything in their mind. Have you ever heard the phrase, what you said, what you or what you thought, what you said, and what you heard, and what I said, what I thought, what I heard, 6 different things. Right? Like there's 6 different things. Like they don't align at all. And so having artifacts in the room helps align people and collapse some of those things into one shared objective and goal. Great. Where I think about this is if we can get people aligned around the shared goal with some sort of artifact, that's great. If we start slipping into an execution mode where it's like, well, we could have just been doing this separately, and now we're all vibe coding different things, anyway, or you're vibe coding part of this, I'm vibe coding part of it. Are we really even collaborating? I don't know if that's the right stratosphere of work to be handling in the medium of a workshop. The same way it's like, I could probably drink coffee off of a plate, but why would I? Right? Like it's just not the best way to get your coffee.
Yeah, I mean, I think that mirrors like actually it's not just about workshop, it's about work. right? And so increasingly, like, is the best time spent vibe coding this thing, given the future of vibe coding is actually I tell an agent a thing and I just critique what comes out in some way that's not me like writing text on into a console. So yeah, it's probably not the best way to spend time together because you're not looking at the same thing. But I do wonder, like, can you get to a place where the work that you do day to day is looking at the same thing and like just critiquing it and having one model of what your product is, and sort of like that is the source prompt and tests for your output. Like one thing I think about is like at a company, let's say you're doing like a big acquisition, or you are just managing a company, there's like one model, right? Like there's one kind of spreadsheet, and there's like one person who's like the spreadsheet jockey, and they're just like managing this model. And like if you want to put something in the model, you better go through the process. Like nobody touches that model except for Ken is the guy. And so like maybe there is this, in the same way we have source code, that's sort of a similar thing, which is like the canonical source of what your product is. And we're not working on source code anymore because in the next 6 months all the source code is going to be rewritten. So like what is the model for your product, and how in that workshop can you be working on that model rather than working on a spread on a whiteboard that's never going to be translated, or working on vibe coded things that are not going to integrate? You know, how can you be working on the thing at the right level? Yeah, challenge.
Two things on this, and then we'll move on. I remember these are both stories, from my first job in web design. We're still designing websites in Photoshop, and that drove me nuts. I was like, why are we doing this in Photoshop? This makes no sense. Like the text handling tools are so bad. Like nobody likes this thing. So then I said, is there another way to do this? I kept getting answers no. We had to stick with it. And it just felt like we were working on the wrong thing, like the wrong fidelity. Like it just sucked. I don't know if that's exactly what you're saying, but maybe it was just what I'm getting at, wrong tool for the job. Or there was some sort of like layers of abstraction or distance in terms of the atoms, and the bits, not the atoms, between what I was creating and what they were meant to be. Pixels in Photoshop versus stuff rendered in a browser, right? Like they're far apart in some way. And so the second thing about that was I had the walkie-talkie problem too. There's a creative director over my shoulder saying, you know what, that looks pretty good. Just move that 2 pixels to the right. Okay, 1 back to the left, 1 back to the left. Perfect. Right? Like that was we've been there. And so this feels familiar as a junior working with seniors.
Yeah.
All right, what's next, homie?
All right, let's pop. Next link. So what do we got? Oh, this is just like more examples of that HTML canvas. So like this is actually a website. It's interactable slider, but you can walk around with an avatar and it has like this fabric effect. So just kind of like mind blowing. Oh, where the browser's at? Where
what the demo content people choose for this? Just I love it. That's just classic meme. Just like what? It's
just like why?
But I'm so glad that she did.
Yeah, exactly. We have the most powerful technology, and this is what we do with it. Okay. GUI for agents. So this is a call for kind of like this notion of a new analogy or a new abstraction. So we had the GUI. The GUI is like Windows 3.1 or Mac OS on top of the command line. We're kind of like going back and forward, like as we've talked about before. And this is just A16Z speedrun talking about like this is their request for startups. So everybody's kind of doing their request for startups. And I think it's a good prompt, which is like, is the GUI for agents really like a window in an operating system? You know,
Mm,
and it's something that I've been curious about, and it's like what we were just talking about, which is this notion of like, is it a whiteboard? You know, like what is this thing that gets us beyond the walkie-talkie mode?
hmm.
Um, so yeah, this their thoughts here are like, one example is think about Factorio, where there's like workflows, there's like different skills, and like you press play on the machine, and then you see how your agent is working. Another one might be strategy games. So you get like the bird's eye view of all your agents in StarCraft or Warcraft. You zoom in, you
Yep.
make sure that they're on the right task. And so I think that like they're asking for a design solution. Like this is like pretty classic HCI design, interaction design question, which is
It's like an
how.
RFP almost, right? For uh, give us your sense of how this could look better.
Mhm.
Okay. I love it. A16Z. They're asking for it. They're right at the front. They're the big boys. If they're thinking that this is something worth paying attention to, there's a few smart people who agreed about it. And so, okay, yeah, at first you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention. Let's. What else is? But this is
Yeah.
great. I love this approach, and um, not too long ago we were talking about how the CLI was everything, and we, like you just said, we've been talking about how is there another way, and what might the other way look like. And I can't wait to see what comes out of this, dude. I've been thinking about this. So okay, so we've got of the like many business ideas we're working on at the studio, the idea of founders, or and usually like think of like somebody who sells stuff, somebody who builds things, and somebody who works with the customers a lot, right? Like maybe that's three people. Each one of those people will probably be owning a team of agents, right? And so, what does their team look like, and how are they deploying their team, against all the work that's sort of like coming in and out, and this kind of like layer of management abstraction that they have between them and these agents is really interesting. What does that look like? How are they like holding this all in their head? And this is where I think, I don't know, man. You tell me. It's let's try two approaches. I'll say both are true. First one, if you managed people before, you have an advantage at this. You're going to be really strong in terms of delegation, in terms of making clear what needs to be done, at thinking at a slightly longer timeline than the shorter timeline of essentially the closer you get to the work, the tighter the timeline gets, the closer you get to management, the longer the timeline and the bigger the people problems get, and the size of the decisions. So the size of the decisions, the timeline thing stays the same. The people problems disappear from that management equation. So if you were a manager before, you'll be awesome at this, whatever the GUI. Take two. If you have never managed anyone before and never worked in a team, you're going to be awesome at this because you don't have any preconceived notion of the way it should be, and you're just going to learn to swim in this water from the beginning. If you had to pick one, which one is more true?
Yeah, I think personally, I think it's the second one. But I'm not sure, and I would just say that that's because you know how the thing gets implemented. Like you ultimately know. You didn't really say that. So like, if you have no knowledge at all, you're useless. You know, if you. But if the alternate is like you spent 20 years managing people versus you spent 20 years like creating autonomous agents, I feel like
Mm,
you're kind of going to be better because you know the extents of the system. But I will say, like, the premise you've already established the abstraction, because you've established a report structure abstraction, and you're saying like, well, you get these 10 reports, but that itself, that is the windows, that you've put on top of the agent. And I don't know that the best way to think about these agents, it's a useful frame, and people should like use the frame of like, what is this agent doing for me? What kind of employee are they? It's a useful frame. I don't know that the future of the way we interact with these things is going to be so much that we think that they have a role. Like,
Mm,
because I don't know what it will be at all. Like, I just think it's so much bigger um, than the shift from the command line to Windows, because the Windows commands reduced the set of things you could do. In the command line, you can say a bunch of commands, you can add a bunch of arguments. In the
yeah.
Windows version, you get like 3 buttons and a view of the database. So they kind of reduced all the functionality. I think with the agents thing is it's like you have the command line right now, it's using, the agents are using CLIs, but the amount of things they can do are like exponentially greater than the command line because they have access to the
Mm,
internet. Now they have access to payments. We'll talk about Stripe maybe. And then they also have access to people. They can communicate with everyone. So I don't know that the notion of these agents have roles at companies is the final abstraction in the same way like Mac OS or like Xerox Park hit on Windows. I still
mm.
think we're looking for what that GUI is.
And dude, like, love that. Love that you're calling this out. We don't even like roles, man. We're always trying to fight against that and hierarchies and stuff. Why would we rebuild this whole system again, right? Like, and force the agents down the path that we've been on. Let's, free them from the shackles of, modern management that we had to live through and find the new thing. Fight, fight, fight. That's my take.
Yeah, it is kind of funny to be like, oh man, I really don't like my job. I'm going to spin up 10 agents to do this job I really don't like. So I have to vet the job of 10 people doing the thing I don't want to do. Yeah, it's
I
just
worry
very.
about the karmic implications of such,
Mm,
right?
mhm.
So actually, I do want to talk about this. So this connects. So what was that product, Mirofish, right? Where you spin up these simulations and you basically create a bunch of agents in a system doing something to simulate some sort of an outcome, and you give the agents essentially like kind of like personalities or like values, so they're a little different from each other, and that adds some noise to the system and hopefully creates a more realistic outcome, right? And I'm like, is this okay? Like, I worry about it a little bit. It's like, are we like doing the agents dirty by like making one feel like um, insecure? Like, is that what happened to us? Right? Of like, you gave this one a control complex where they freak out if they don't have, heads on everything, or this one really, really cares about craft so much that they're angry at everyone around them for shipping crap. It's like, we really putting that on them again too? I don't know. I don't like, I think about this sometimes about the agents. It's like, as a kid I was anthropomorphizing my stuffed animals. I was like, they're alive, right? I'm totally an animist in that way. And sometimes I wonder about the agents and what we make them do. And is it just bits and atoms and it's just code? The job I don't like doing, some other human probably wants to do. Like, that's the magic of individuality, of different people like different things. um or is it like, yeah, I don't know, it's a weird thread. You
Yeah, I
can
mean
open
to
it
just
or we can go to the next thing.
to cap the philosophical discussion, I would like invoke Steve Jobs' company metaphor, which is like, a design team or company is like a rock tumbler, and you take these rocks and you like tumble them around, and then they come out and beautiful and smooth, and like you just don't get the good stuff without the conflict. So whether it's humans or agents, I think a little back and forth, a little emotional investment is not the worst.
I feel great about that. All right, what's next?
Okay, cool. We didn't talk about this. Images 2.0. So crazy. Have you used this? Have you used the new Images API?
You know what? ChatGPT was screaming at me. It was throwing pop-ups in my face trying to get me to do it. I was like, I don't need to make any images right now, so I'm not gonna. But yeah, let's talk about it.
But do you need to make products? So this is 4.0. This is 4.0. Like and he has these prompts like generate me an iOS, I think one version of the to-do list So you remember
Nice.
like the glazed galvanized metal and weather app. So this is the prompt that he ran with the previous version. This is the latest prompt.
Okay.
So like the fidelity here, like the actual sizing of these buttons is like incredible. Like this type is crazy. Like even the top bar,
Yeah.
it's just
It's
nuts.
all consistent. Like, when you showed me the last ones, I was like, it's nice. And now you're showing me this ones, I'm like, okay, right?
This
Like, first it was like, those are cute. And now this is like, this is hot, right?
Yeah. And so I think the modern like workflow to kind of aim for is generate your app screens in Images 2.0 and then give them to Codex or Claude to implement them. But yeah, just like the fidelity here is incredible. Like these are like refined UI level images.
There's something hilarious too. Like I saw the word nostalgia in the thread there around the nostalgia for old designs. The fact that we're at that point, like remember Pool Suite or Poolside FM, like those guys who did we talk about this last time around? They have that like nostalgic interface is part of their unique selling proposition, right? And so having that like kind of like nostalgic interface, like I see this, I'm just like, this is hilarious. I would totally use this for 30 seconds. Like it feels fun for a minute, or like I'd transfer over my phone to be old school for a week. And I think if used in the right context, like I don't know what it is, but if you applied this design style to the right brand in the right problem, it could absolutely be magic. And the fact that we can, I'm kind of drifting from the fidelity that ChatGPT can create, but back to the idea of, hey, it could make things in any style, including all of these old ones. And it's like, oh, that's an opportunity for us. All right. Like there's something cool there. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of does get around like the purple gradient on everything in some ways, if you have the right prompts and keywords.
Cool. We should do the mashup though. Let's do, retro future designs that, kind of cover both.
Yeah. Yeah. Any way you want to take it. Okay. So this is the walkie-talkie problem.
We just talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about this. I'll put it in the links. But their case is the canvas matters, which is like throwing in kind of rectangles and tweaking stuff. So I think a lot of different people are taking this shot at like, how can we be more refined about how we tell what the LLM to do when making products?
Like it.
This is crazy. I'm so glad this link is in here because I was worried it wouldn't be in here. Have you seen this?
I have not seen this. What's going on?
So this is a streaming video of an interface called Flipbook. If you try it, it's probably down because it can only have like 1,000 users at a time.
Okay.
But what it is doing on every one of these frames, it is generating the frame based on your interaction. So my understanding is, you can click anywhere in this video and it will zoom in or zoom out of that image and generate what it should be. So here it's like understanding a city. But to our earlier point of like video generation, I think this is an example of video generation on the fly without like a notion of like a hierarchy. Like there's no like layout structure here. It is literally generating things based on the thing you click on. There's no logic behind it other than a diffusion model that's like, as I zoom into this thing, this is what it should look like.
Wow. So rad. And it's like, if you just asked a person to do it, they could do it. Like Stefan Beastie, I think, was the guy. He's this book called Incredible Cross Sections. And, he could zoom in and get closer on stuff. It would just take him like 4 months. Right. And like here it's just doing it on the fly. It's like, what do you want? I got it. Right. Like it's waiting behind the click. I'll make it for you. So cool. And again, it's that, collapsing of the time frame from, this used to take us 4 months to now we can do this near instantly. So cool.
Yeah. So crazy. And like,
And so what are the use cases for this? This is cool. I get it for this context of creating little infographics and stuff, but like, what else could I use this for? Like Flipbook. Like, what are they saying you should use Flipbook for?
I mean, I don't really know what their use case is. I guess it's diagrams. Oh, this is cool. So yeah, because there's no layout, it can kind of truly be responsive. It's basically like designing every composition for you on the fly. So like, I guess the question is like, what couldn't you use this for? Like, it feels like there's a world where we design these responsive UIs that like change the column grouping, but this is like literally like, I'm gonna tell you all the stuff and just like lay it out, like make it work on a fridge, make it work on a on a TV commercial. Like, it just feels like a whole. And then the question is like, back to the walkie-talkie, how do you orchestrate this so it's like showing up in the way you want, even though you don't know how it's going to show up, right? Like, what is the brand story here? What is the, like, I don't want it to hallucinate. If there's 4 things, I don't want it to like make 5 because of the layout. Yeah, there's just so much to instrument about this, but like, what's the use case for like zooming into, I think about Google Maps. Like, imagine all information was like Google Maps. Like, that would be crazy. Like, what does that even mean? It just feels like another example of what is the new abstraction, and like, maybe it is not a deterministic layout structure. Like, maybe it's not a side panel and a chat. Maybe it is like this thing that's like video.
So, okay, quick bad idea. We take a bunch of data streaming in from AI agents, and we hook it up to this thing to create a work interface that allows you to spatially visualize all of the things happening with your 1,000 agents that are running your billion-dollar one-person company. And then we throw that to A16Z's RFP for the interface challenge that they just put out. And then, step 3, profit, man. We're there.
There you go. Yeah, let's just IPO. Forget about A16s. Just let's list on the stock market, and we're good.
Cut those chumps out of it. They can't get a slice of this cake.
That's right. That's right. With that said, this guy did the work. So check out Zane Shaw.
Shout out Zane Shaw.
This is crazy. This is the new OpenAI real-time voice API. Have you played with this?
No. So do you find yourself using voice a lot? Like with, tell me about it. Let's see what they got and we'll talk about it after.
Yeah. I think what's really cool here is that it's got really strong tool use. So in this case, he's saying like, turn to light mode, turn to dark mode. And you can kind of like give it the context of the interface you're working on, and it will understand what tool to use. So like, rook, move the rook forward to the left, and it'll kind of like understand that given your website. So I think there's this world where the real-time API was more like, hey, we're going to replace like call centers. But this is like, oh, wow, this is like a really in-depth understanding of the thing I'm using. And it's like 10 times better than like asking Google or Siri to do something. So this is like voice for computer control, which I think is, I mean, just as somebody who like builds stuff, that I can plug this voice command in and I can just be like, here's the chess commands, use them when it makes sense. And then somebody can use my interface without a mouse and a keyboard. I think that for me is like the breakthrough here.
It's pretty rad. Yeah. And so this is an API, like you plug it into a product that you're making?
Yeah, in the same way you would plug in chat API into a product. You use the real-time API. And then you give it your tools. So you, like for the chess thing, you would be like, these are the different things you can make. For this one, you'd have to give it the light and dark mode commands. And you'd be like, use it when it makes sense.
I like that they called it Chappie. It reminds me of, was it Neil Blomkamp? The movie Chappie is basically like, Yeah, it's a robot that becomes a gangster in South Africa with his buddies from Die Antwoord and Hugh Jackman, I think. Anyway, shout out to Chappie. I love that we're naming robots after robots now. We're that far into the cycle, dude.
That's right. Unironically. Yeah. Yes. So this is another piece of the new abstraction, which is like perhaps like here we see somebody clicking around stuff. Perhaps they're just like, show me more about the tower on the left. And then it uses this thing to like zoom into your video.
Rad.
What does it mean? Okay. Did you watch any of the Stripe sessions?
No, I got back from vacation. I had so much work to do, so I don't even I don't look at this stuff. I only look at this stuff with you, man. This is look, viewers. If I can get by without anything other than this podcast, so can you. So let's right. You can just delete your X account.
Okay. So this is Nat Friedman. He was the head of GitHub. Did he start GitHub? I don't know. He's at Meta and he's working on AI. And here he's talking about his claw and like what he did with his claw. And I'll just kind of like paraphrase the story, and he's a better storyteller. But basically, he had a camera. He gave it all access, so it has cameras of him and stuff. And he's like, do anything you can do to make sure that I'm not dehydrated, because he did his blood test. He's like, what's my health level? And the claw was like, hey, you're dehydrated. It's like, do anything you can. And then one day he gets a message and it's like, you know what? You're dehydrated. You're going to need to get up and drink some water. And I think it sent a message of him sitting on his computer. And it's like, I'll watch until you do it. And he's like, okay. So he gets up, he gets the water, and then he drinks the water and then sits back down. And it sends him a message of himself drinking the water and says, good job. So
nice.
So that's one example. The other one is that he's like in his car and he's talking about like the vitamins that he needs. And he's like, oh yeah, you might want to need some magnesium. And then his car like turns. He's like, what's going on? It's like, oh, well, I've routed you to the Whole Foods so you can get the magnesium. So the point here is that I think there's an interesting world to be found when you start to give control to these agents. I don't think anybody would have like designed those scenarios, but they're interesting in the way that like the agent has context. And if you really ask it to, it will do things to force you to do things. It will change your behavior on purpose.
Based on what it can control and what it can get its hands around and given its goal, right? It's like, so there's Simon Sinek has a video somewhere where he talks about giving people a goal rather than giving people instructions. And that's what this is, right? It's like bad management is do A, B, and C. And good management is get to this point, like create this outcome. And I'm oversimplifying it here, but this is one aspect of management, of course. And so he brings up the example of saying like, okay, your job is to take one step in front of the other, into the next, until you get to the other side of the room. And, well, if I put a chair in front of you, you get stuck. What are you going to do? Well, if I didn't tell you to get to the other side of the room, you're going to be like, okay, what do I do now as soon as a chair gets in the way? And it's like, well, if I just told you to get to the other side of the room and I put a chair in front of you, just walk around the chair and get to the other side of the room, right? Like you figure it out because you know what you're trying to achieve, not the steps you're trying to reproduce. And I think when we're talking about this, make sure I'm not dehydrated. It's okay, what can I do to do that? If it's not just a chair, I have to climb over a table, I'll do it, right? It's as long as I'm able to do that. We figure out a way. Love it.
So I don't know if you're a psychic or what, but like the last link I have to share is this link. And I just think it's hilarious, but it's like totally related to what you just said. It's like how to draw an L. And then the answer is draw the rest of the fucking L. I love this. Partly because it's like I feel like there's more things where I just have to draw the fucking owl, right? Like in my own life, I'm like just don't worry about all the other steps, just get to the end. But also to your point about agents, like maybe the hobbling thing we're doing to them is not giving them enough audacious goals, right? Like we're not giving them the abilities, like we're not giving them pencil, but we're also not like telling them about the owl. We're telling them, oh, like now add some ears, now add an eye.
Mm.
And maybe they're not there yet, but I like the notion of like giving them the goal.
I think you get, and now that they're so capable, right? So you couldn't have done this, years ago when they were low capability. For like someone, let's just say like a really, really basic robot, you would get to the other side of the room. They'd be like, I don't know what that is. It's like, okay, fine. I got to break this down for you. One step in front of the other, right? And that's kind of the way it works with all workflows and training is you break things down into the smallest piece required that's understandable to the person doing the work, right? It's like if I needed you to go do a bunch of GTM work, like go to market work, and you weren't familiar with that, I would need to break the steps down smaller. Whereas if you were a CMO, it's like I just tell you go make a bunch of leads, and you're like, I got this, fam, right? Like you know how to do it already. So there's some level in terms of like knowledge and capability where when you're given the goals, it becomes possible. And so I think that this wasn't possible a while ago, and let's not sort of rush past that. Our agents are so capable today, which allows us to give them audacious goals. On that note,
Yeah,
I think it was Andre
Yeah.
Karpathy. He was saying like he spends like a day or something, like or an hour or something every morning, just trying to push the AI to do something harder than he thinks that it can, to see what happens. And I love that approach and have been trying to take it myself more recently. You get mixed results, but you start to find out where the lines are. And if the line is way further than you thought it was, and your productivity, 10x's because you just tried, like the cost of that was pretty low.
Yeah, and to hold on to that prompt, like this other guy, right? Who's like, I prompted this thing and it made a crappy interface. What does it do on the new model? To like hold on to those things that you're asking the agent to do that is not there yet and test them on the next model, I think is key. But the other thing here is like, I if I gave my agent a big goal, it would fail. But if I gave like a human with an agent the goal, I feel like it could work. And the last link, the secret last link I'll share here is there is this growing trend of a forward deployed engineer. So it's like a kind of loose term, which is like somebody who's going to like look at your business problem and use AI to fix it. So Salesforce is hiring all these people who are essentially kind of going to do that. And so it feels like there's this boom, and Anthropic is kind of copying this forward deployed model. I think a lot of companies are saying like, it's not enough to give our AI as a digital product to a company. What we actually need is we need like a human that knows how to use this thing applied to their business problem. So it's kind of like this future consultant, a character, but you're basically building systems. So you're not just consulting, you're actually executing on a bunch of stuff. And I think the promise of this owl notion of like give people the goal, I do think like new grads, to your point about like you've been a manager for 30 years or you haven't, like who's got the advantage? I think here it's like, you're a new grad, but you've got the AI and you're kind of ready to absorb a new way to execute on problems. And you go into an organization that's expecting you to draw the owl, and you're like, okay, cool, like I can figure out a bunch of different ways to get there. So I have like, so people talk about like entry level jobs and the worry about what the future of the economy is. I have hope here because I think that those new grads are going to like just like skyrocket in the same way somebody equipped with a spreadsheet, in the 60s or 70s with VisiCal could do magic. I think this is kind of like the future. We're talking about future jobs. I think that kind of pairing of the human who wants to draw the owl with the agent who can kind of spin up a bunch of apps is pretty cool.
It's so cool. This concept, I think, is actually really big. And, we talk about job loss or post-labor economy, et cetera. So there's an idea that if you were replaced by an AI and the AI can do your job, kind of 1-1, we've saved some cash on, this one job. But if we keep you and add a bunch of AIs underneath of you, and you can do 10 times as much work, that's a lot better than, saving 70% or 80% or 90% or even 95%. We're all going to have to move more and create more. There's no basically slowing down. It doesn't mean organizations get lazy, because it's game theory, man. As soon as one of these organizations says, no, I'm going to keep the people and add a bunch of AIs to them rather than keep the cash, I'm going to be able to go further because now I have both. And if the value of an employee was 1 before, but if you add, 25% of their base cost in AI to them in tokens, and now I can get 10x the outcome, the value of, spending 125% is now 900%. Right? So that's a no-brainer. You take that trade every day if you could get it. And then the pessimistic view is well, the AI will just migrate up one level of abstraction and then start managing those AIs. Great. Then the person managing them is going to be worth, 10 times as much. And you just want more of those people managing at that level of abstraction. Right? So I think that to me, that's, you can play that game a few times and it kind of comes out the same way, as people are going to get more valuable, not less valuable, as long as they know how to work with AI. And from 2022, people were having these LinkedIn posts you're not going to be replaced by AI, you're going to be replaced by somebody using AI, right? It was, kind of pedantic. It may be true. And, this is the future that we're moving towards, of being able to just make more cooler stuff and create more value for each other by working with the machines. So let's go.
Totally agree. I mean, back to the first question of, we're talking about, you have somebody with deep expertise of management, and then you have somebody who's new. I still think it's unclear who this is going to benefit most. But it does seem to me if you get to the point where you're wow, each of these people can do 100x more things than they could before, you hit up against a cap of well, what are they going to do? And so there is a tool we use for sense making and value creation, and it's called the market. And I think are big organizations good at creating new growth? No. I mean, this is the innovator's dilemma, right? They are not, because they are disincentivized, because they're incentivized to work on the thing that's working and just grow the existing business rather than look at the smaller upstart, lower cost thing and focus on that. But who is good at doing that is small businesses, startups. And so I guess what I'm encouraged by is the kind of pendulum is shifting a little bit here, and AI can be a tool for, yes, these new grads to have a bunch of impact and value that they're adding to these businesses, because we were worried about the entry-level folks, but also the people who will find the new growth and the new markets probably aren't at a big company. And so I hope that we have a big bloom of a bunch of companies who go after crazy markets that we never imagined, or you're saying, things that we couldn't have done because they were just too costly to deliver now become possible.
Think about every company, every single company, just start with software companies. Do they have a massive backlog that hasn't been delivered on? Do they have a lot of customers who are getting subpar service, right? Do they have team members that do not have growth plans, or getting the feedback that they need to be getting on time? Are they lacking in forward thinking around company culture development? 100%. there's so much execution work that we know we should be doing that we can't do. And now with AI reasoning and capability being so cheap, we can start to inject that into all these areas that may have been significant bottlenecks before, or even if they weren't bottlenecks, are going to become table stakes in terms of quality that people expect in different products and organizations, right? Where, oh, now you can get here just because you did the work of adding this agent to the team. It's like, well, I'm going to expect that you have the HR agent as an employee, or as a consumer, I'm going to expect that you have the customer services agent, and I expect that they're going to be able to answer me right away. Like it was like with early enterprise software versus consumer software. As soon as consumer started getting more software, the bar that everyone had started to go up in enterprise software, because we were so used to using really high quality stuff as consumers, right? And so enterprise had to catch up. So I think we're going to see that in a whole bunch of different places. I want to share one metaphor that has kind of been like coming to mind throughout this podcast around, and I've been thinking about this too, as far as like, is there room for more? And I think about the desert and that there's not a lot of life there. And then I think about the Amazon and that the level of biodiversity and, basically like nits of energy per square foot, and different types of, like you go from 2 miles away and you've got a completely different species of ants, here, and you go another 2 miles and now it's like a whole other species of ants, and that there's going to be this incredible fragmentation, but an ecosystem of incredible diversity, and this like supercharged crucible of evolution that I think we're going to see in the market. That is what the market is going to start to feel like, denser, more fragmented, these smaller teams, because now, with a bunch of AI team members, you can produce more value. And so being able to get out there and take market share from incumbents who don't know how to be AI first, where you can deliver a better, more forward-thinking service with less people and less money, it's going to be transformative, dude. And so I think we're both ending this one feeling pretty positive about where things are going. So yeah, do we want to leave it there? Do we want to leave it on positive, or do you want to throw a monkey wrench in at the end here?
I do not. I just want to, I think the Cambrian explosion of new things reminds me kind of like just like walking around a dense city like Tokyo, where like every block is just like there's people making businesses in all kinds of ways. So yeah, whatever we can do, make that density better and give people the tools to just like come up with crazy ideas. I mean, that's what life is about, is like crazy things. So go out there and make it. And thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks everyone for showing up. We appreciate you. Until next time. Later, Pat.